G'day guys, 2023 Caulfield Cup preview this time. This will be the in-depth preview, so runner by runner basis. I'll give as much time as I think's needed for each horse individually, skip through the ones that I probably give a lesser chance to, but will at least give a bit of a summary and then a bit more added time for those that I think are probably more interesting and we want to know more about. So I'll get through it as quick as I can and we might as well get straight into it. First horse of interest and first race of interest will be Gold Trip and the Turnbull Stakes. This is obviously a very key lead up. You've got Gold Trip, West Wind Blows, Salcombe, Duke de Sessa, Francesco Guardi, Right You Are, and I think Emissary. I'm not sure if I've missed any, but I hopefully haven't. Key things about this race, they go really fast. They run fast overall time. So whilst a very good effort from Gold Trip, want to highlight a few runners in this race. So we'll get into it. The start's not overly important in this race. Gold Trip is taken back. West Wind Blows is interesting. It's in the yellowy, starry, greeny colours with the sleeves out wide. Salcombe is taken back, sort of back towards the inside there. So they're off speed, Gold Trip and Salcombe. They're suited by the tempo. Francesco Guardi's sort of in the middle of the pack there. Right You Are's up closer to the speed. And Emissary's right in the middle of the fence. So not a lot happens really, apart from wanting to highlight, this is Right You Are. Sorry, this is West Wind Blows. 4 and 5 wide down the back. Never gets any cover at any stage in the race, constantly working. And key things about this, it's working hard during the hardest run periods of the race. So while they're going fast, this horse is wide, exposed, no cover, ends up outside the leader. That's as good a run as it gets, sort of see half-carting the leader there. So it's putting tempo into the race even when they're going fast. So this horse has just done nothing but work hard the whole race, ends up outside leaders. This Gold Trip back here last. So when we're talking all the sting in the race is up to this point. This is where the sting comes out. They still run time, so it's not a poor race by any standard. But up until this point, the horse that's done the most work clearly is West Wind Blows. These horses back on the fence, Salcombe, Emissary, Francesco Guardi in the middle, and Gold Trip out the back have all done pretty much no work apart from, that run being dragged along in a fast run race. Right You Are there to the outside in the red cap, yellow sleeves, getting buffeted. At this point, Francesco Guardi presents every possible chance for mine. Gold Trip as well, every possible chance. So this is Flemington, not Caulfield. Very important, very different dynamic of a track. Tracking up behind, getting to the middle, very solid option for a horse like Gold Trip who wants to get through his gears. Salcombe back towards the inside, a horse that just lacks that turn of foot, but that lacks that early speed, but has a turn of foot usually to overcome it. Coming to this point, you would say this horse here is entitled to drop out West Wind Blows. And fresh horses on the scene are happy to chime in at this period and take over. What this horse does, West Wind Blows, is basically incredible. It looks cast here, and all it does is want to find. Gold Trip does chime in, beautiful turn of foot, capitalise on the situation. As I said, really fast time, everything you want to see in a race. But I do clearly think that this horse was a better run in isolation. It's just done everything in the race that you want to see. It's put itself in the race. It's worked hard. It's strong to the line regardless. It may not have the turn of foot of a Gold Trip if circumstances like this unfold again on Saturday, but he's hard, he's fit, he's tough. And, I can't see 2,400 metres stopping this horse. Salcombe coming up the inside certainly had its chance to get past West Wind Blows. They're the clear best 3 runs in the race. I can't see any of the others. Duke de Sessa's one horse I did miss, who is just sort of back in the pack here. I think it runs 5th. I just want to double check that 6th. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's here in the inside here. It does need to improve. It's got some good UK form, no doubt about that. If it found it, it can be a part of the finish in this race, but does need to improve compared to the ones up on speed. So I think, this race is certainly a big highlight race. And I just think West Wind Blows is, everyone's seen the run, but they've all seen the winner is the flashing light, best run in the race, where I think this horse was clearly the best run in the race, West Wind Blows. Salcombe, not bad. Those top 3, I feel, are clearly the 3 that come out of the Turnbull that are the most dangerous. Number 2, Without a Fight. It comes out of the Underwood Stakes. So a few of these runners also ran in this race. Without a Fight's going into this race second up. So it did something similar in the Brisbane Summer Carnival. He went bang, bang, 1,800, 2,200 put away with this race in mind the whole way. Obviously ran in the Melbourne Cup last year. Started, I think, $12, so it was well fancied there off, a pretty weird preparation. Now it's joined, that was when it was with Simon and Ed Crisford. It's joined the Anthony and Sam Friedman team, and certainly is acclimatised much better this year for mine. Different horse. And as you see, sort of he's let drift back here. He drew wide, drew 10 of 15, and he's let drift back. And basically, I'm not going to say it's a barrier trial, but this is not a race that they were worried about winning to a certain degree. In this race was Sulcombe, Right You Are, a nonconformist as well. So this is without a fight, sort of getting dragged back a touch here. Sulcombe's just inside. So it's probably the only two horses we're interested in. This race was also run at a solid tempo, but very steady tempo. So whereas they went really fast in that Turnbull and then slowed down in comparison, even though the time was still good, this race they've just sort of gone a steady, good tempo throughout. So much harder to make ground, much less advantage for those back in the field. Up on speed was not a bad place to be compared to the Turnbull Stakes. So and this was around Caulfield as well. I think it is more difficult for horses to run on them from back and wide around the circle here. So here we stop. This is Sulcombe, and this is without a fight. Right You Are here, also a nonconformist, but you can see without a fight sort of tracked up behind them and was forced to, pretty much violently change ground and then try to run on. Sulcombe, I believe it already had a run under his belt here. I will double check that because, yeah, so it had a run under its belt. This horse first up, it had the fitness advantage over it and thought it was just if you're going to say the words barrier trial, this is probably this is a beautiful barrier trial for this race. Always plan to go into this race second up. So it goes 18-24. Having a look around Caulfield's great, which obviously Sulcombe's had as well. I can't tick any more boxes for this horse. I just thought, his wins up in Brisbane, even though they were in much weaker grade over the summer carnival. This was a fast run race. I'm not even sure what it was called, to be fair. But this is without a fight back in the field here. You can see what he can do, sort of 2,200 metres off a fast run tempo. And he just joins in with fresh legs, that great turn of foot that not too many stayers have when they get to this distance and range. Like that's Dewey that has just gone past there, who ran third in a weight for age race a few days ago. That's nonconformist, I believe, coming down the outside. Sorry, it's Tuvalu. I don't know he's nonconformist running into second. So the form here lines up. You can see how soft that win is, how dominant. It quickly puts him away with the turn of foot. Everything you want to see in a stayer. So a great addition to this race is without a fight. Just going to minimise that. Next horse we're going to look at is Breakup. I won't spend too much time on this horse because I've basically took myself that this is a barrier trial or a lead-up run for the Melbourne Cup. This horse's form's all sort of 2,200 plus, but best runs, Tenno Show fourth, which is what I want to show here. This is a great race, the Spring Tenno Show. Leading into a Melbourne Cup, this horse is going to stand right up. This horse's form's still okay. It's won a Group 2 over 2,500, but he just looks, and even though these sort of horses can come out and run well in a Caulfield Cup. So here he is here in the green. In the middle, he's running about sixth, number 12. Coming to the bend here. He's got speed. I expect him to be up in the sort of first 5 or 6 in this race without doubt. And here he is here, just trying really hard. It's pretty hard to get your head around this, but Japanese racing is so strong. A horse that looks like it, is labouring here to some degree. That's still good form for here. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him win this race, even if he isn't ready and isn't wound up. They tell me he's an incredible specimen to look at individually, which, most Japanese horses are. They're incredible beasts. And even though he looks, pretty well beaten here, that form is incredible. And Justin Palace would be starting very short in a race like this, I would imagine, if he was being set for it. So Breakup's another great addition to this race. It's just a matter of whether he finds that 2,400 metres too short off, a 118-day break, which is what he faces here. And then I think he'll be better in the Melbourne Cup. So he's a horse to well and truly keep your eye on for the Melbourne Cup. If you're interested in backing him in the Melbourne Cup, I wouldn't be telling you not to back him now, because I think that, he'll run a race here and could potentially firm up. Next horse we're looking at is Montefilia. Its lead-up run is the Hill Stakes, which is Who You Mouth race as well. We'll have a look at both of them at the same time. Montefilia ran 4th in this race last year. It was trained by David Payne at that stage, had a very different setup. So it was 3rd up into the Caulfield Cup last year off a mile run on a heavy 8 and then a 2,000-metre run on a heavy 9. Went into this race 3rd up on a 7. This time in, it's gone 14, 16, 2000, back to 19, all on good tracks. Now comes to 1400. I think she's a much better horse on top of the ground. And watch Who You Mouse. So Who You Mouse here in the yellow. First time he's kind of settled quite nicely. This is a really quite a slow run race, which in comparison to the ones we've already seen are all, been steady to fast tempo. So good effort for Montefilia, who's got enough speed to hold a spot. This is her here and draws a decent enough gate in the Caulfield Cup. So she kind of slots in eventually. Who You Mouse rolls forward, ends up leading, then ends up outside the leader eventually. Here, as you can see, they're not going too quick. Montefilia is back in a pretty awkward spot for a horse to overcome from a momentum perspective. Who You Mouse shoots clear. Number one thing that we've got to look at here. Montefilia held up in behind them. Pardon me. Gets to the middle of the track. Takes a couple hundred meters to hit her absolute top, but Who You Mouse is not stopping here. Like, they've come home 6 lengths above standard the last 600 meters, and this horse Montefilia has absolutely monstered them late. Hard to imagine a horse doing much more than that coming to this race. Ran the fastest last 600, second fastest last 4, second fastest last 200 of the day, and that's off a slow tempo back in the field with limited momentum, limited room to move. She's going to run well here. Blake Shin takes the ride. That's no loss from Nashra Willer. Hard to say that she doesn't tick just about every box here. So huge tick for Montefilia. She drops 2.5 kilos from that race. And importantly, Who You Mouse, who started a $13 chance in the Melbourne Cup last year, much like Without a Fight at its first run in the country, has had a really solid build-up, 16, 16, 19, now to 2,400 metres, and drops from 59 kilos there to 53 kilos here. So a 6 kilo drop for Who You Mouse from that race versus a 2.5 kilo drop from Montefilia, and the added run under both of their belt. They both look like they're going to run very well to me in this year's race. And we've seen Who You Mouse like a $15, $16 chance. So seems like he is the value runner of the two, and certainly probably the value runner of the race as we sort of head down the page. Francesco Guardi, we've already covered, was in the Turnbull Stakes last start. Looked incredible at this time last year in sort of Bart Cummings Moonee Valley Cup, won the Moonee Valley Cup. I just wanted to see more from him in that lead-up run. James McDonald taking the ride is, a great pointer. At 54 kilos is incredible. That's a big effort for James to get to 54 kilos. So definitely no knock whatsoever on Francesco Guardi for those who like him, but I just think he has to find, that 5 lengths that he was beaten last start to overcome this. I know that was set weight penalties. He drops to 54. But I probably wanted to see more. West Wind Blows, we've already talked about to a certain degree. It ran in the Turnbull Stakes, but I just wanted to show the Winter Hill lead-up run from the UK. So this is West Wind Blows on the outside. Is beaten here in a Group 3, but you can see like only a small field. It's hard to get a real feel for these races, but I just love that. Look at the margins here, all bunched. You got sort of 6 horses within 3 to 4 lengths of each other at absolute maximum, and it's a great sign what these horses do to the margins late. So whilst people don't think this horse has turned a foot horse, he's very strong. He builds through his gaps. And look at the gaps that open up. He really puts those horses away, and that was over 2011 meters. He's a winner to 22, 27. He's only had 13 starts, 5 wins. Profiles really well for me for a horse that's come from the UK. Love, he's 13 starts, 5 wins, 6 placings. He's just super consistent, draws ideal, has enough speed to hold a spot, whether it be just behind them or not. 54 kilos, so gets into the race beautifully. The rider's probably the only query, but he's ridden this horse the last 4 starts and obviously capable, even though he hasn't had a lot of luck out here to this date. He's certainly no fool. So that's West Wind Blows. I've probably got him on, equal on top here Without a Fight. I don't have much between them. I think he's the best on-pace horse. I'm only concerned that run in the Turnbull Stakes flattened him to a certain degree. But if he's come through that run or thrived or come off it and gone forward, he's going to be exceptionally hard to beat in this race. Nonconformist ran second to Without a Fight in that weight for age race up in Eagle Farm. Came back and is beaten 4.5 lengths in a Memsey, 2.5 lengths by Alligator Blood at weight for age, and then 6 lengths by Alligator Blood at weight for age since then. Now drops from 59 in the last 3 runs to 53.5. 19 gates, a bit of a problem. And I'll have a quick look at it just because it's probably, worthy of that. This is a really fast run race. This is non-conformist back in the black with the yellow and black pom-pom. He just out sprinted at weight for age, sort of doesn't get a lot of room, and then comes on okay towards the inside. Just a really tough horse that does a decent enough job there at weight for age. Strong enough through the line. Far from the worst in this race. Just a big task from gate 19 where it's going to be in the run. I feel like it's going to be well at the back, and there's some pretty quality horses like Gold Trip, Solcombe that are going to be out there. And then you've also got to get past all of your other horses, in the middle of without a fight, and then you've got to get past West Wind and Mal, and it's not going to be a good effort. It's going to take a big effort from coming in the back of this field. Solcombe's the next one. Interesting horse, very enigmatic sort of horse. So this time last year, sort of burst onto the scene with a win at Flemington, where it just was sort of a breathtaking win off a slow tempo. Ran an almighty rating, and everyone thought, what the heck's this horse? Had a 91-day break after that. Wasn't the same horse in the February, March part of this year, the early autumn, and then showed a little bit, but it was still not the same horse behind Sir Lucan before it went for a break. Came back, and this is the run that's probably worth highlighting. So first up off another slow tempo, over 1,700 metres. This is Solcombe back second last. Gets the run through. You can see it just looks like a barrier trial the way it's chiming into the race. It's embarrassing what it's doing to these horses, to be fair, and just smashes them. That's with 58.5 kilos and just burst through the line. Its run since have been okay, like a fourth and then a fourth in the Underwood and a third in the Turnbull, which we've seen already. Just worried this horse is going to get back inside. Does drop to 53.5, which is great. Well, it waited to win this race. Obviously, a second to Goldman reads okay for this race. Just think it needs everything to go its way compared to a few others in this race. And I just think, potentially giving a big start. It's not a horse that I don't think cannot win for sure, but it's just the one that I want to take on at the relative prices at the moment. Duke de Sessa, we've already talked about, come over from the UK had its first run here in April. Ran 8th in the Doncaster, then it's come back and run 2 okay races, but it's a bit D-Day-ish. This horse again draws awkwardly, going to be out the back. I think it needs to put in a huge peak effort for what we've seen of it out here. So Duke de Sessa is one that I'll probably be taking on as well. Mal we've talked about, started $13 in the Melbourne Cup last year, beaten 20 lengths. Completely forgiving of that, just forgetting it ever happened. It was okay in the Chelmsford weight for age, 2 really slow run weight for age races where it was never in the right spot, never really got room to move or get going. Last time it did, up outside the leader and improved significantly in the Hill Stakes. 2,400 metres, obviously no issue for this horse. Stable, absolutely flying. Gate looks perfect to roll and find a position, either in the first 3, 4, 5 or 6. Just no knock on this horse. Stable rider, everything looks great. 53 kilos, great. So big Mal fan, think it's probably one of the biggest value runners in the race, around the $15, $16, $17 mark currently. Right You Are has not had a lot of luck. Its last 2 after a good resuming run in the benchmark 100 at Caulfield. Has solid form around here. It's an underrated horse probably, but I just wanted to see more of it, especially, other horses had tough runs in the same race as it did and beat at home. So I think it's going to need a miracle from 13 gate. Right You Are in this race, and it's entitled to be pretty big odds here. Emissary, same boat. Very average its last couple. Had huge speed to suit in the naturalism. Then last time, just a little bit plain. So Emissary is another one I'll just sort of push through. Goldman was just probably favourite for this race and favourite for the Melbourne Cup at one stage, especially with its stablemate Gray, insert name here, who unfortunately went amiss, and will be back this time next year. But he's just not looked the same horse. So he's covered ground first up. You could be forgiving there. Led the start next at ridiculously fast tempo. Forgiving there. Then last time sort of had the right run and just was beaten too far. And he really needs to turn his form around significantly, probably too significantly to really want to entertain him here fully. So he's a tough one to love, I think. In this race, next horse is Okita Sushai. So it ran in the Irish St. Ledger trial. that's it in front. So only a small field. This is the St. Ledger trial, not the St. Ledger. Beaten 6.5. So this is in front. Seems to have its chance. Completely out sprinted by two better quality horses in Shemita, and I'm not sure what the second horse's name is, to be honest. But Gap's the fourth horse, but that's all you get to see. It's very hard to line this form up. It doesn't look anything stylish, action-wise or what he's doing. The two in front of him are just clearly superior. Run away from him. That's over 2,800 metres. One over 2,400 metres. Start before that at Ascot. Legless by any stretch of the imagination. It's just a matter of whether this horse can measure up in this grade at this point in time, or whether he's maybe a little bit better placed in the Melbourne Cup potentially if he gets there, which I think this horse is more targeting this race, whereas the other horse down the bottom is at Valiant King is more targeting this race and not going to the Melbourne Cup potentially. So keeping an eye on this horse here, I'm going to say today or Saturday may not be the day for this horse, but keeping an eye on him for the future and potentially the Melbourne Cup. Fame, I thought, has been okay. I just that Brisbane Derby form, Caulfield is obviously a very talented horse. Got beaten 5.5 lengths by Without a Fight. Has he made enough improvement to take him seriously here? Probably not, of what we've seen the last two runs, and needs a big form reversal. Fame. Boydie Argent, I think it would be the surprise of the century if it won this race. Obviously, second in a Caloundra Cup, third in a Premier's Cup, but second in a Hawaiian Cup. How does that read? Probably not great for this level of Caulfield Cup. Spirit Ridge is interesting. Certainly worth watching the replay of this horse's lead-up run, which is the Metropolitan. So Spirit Ridge is a natural leader. They really do pile the pressure on here. So they've gone 22 lengths and a half above average to the 600-metre mark in this race for this level of class. So they've really flown, come home, pretty solidly, still only 5 lengths below considering how fast they've gone out. The start before that went 8 lengths above, 7 lengths above home, run really fast times all three times its last three runs. So that's the Wyong Cup where it set the tempo as opposed to Boydie Argent and Benno, who didn't. The next start comes out in the Newcastle Cup, sets a fast tempo there and a fast overall time. And then the Metropolitan does this again. So it's led, and the horse that beats it is Just Fine, who sits behind the leader. And you can see what they do to the rest of the field. Just run away from the rest of the field. So, this horse is potentially in career best form. It's just about career best form. And he's got, ratings. He's got distance figures. There's nothing to say this horse won't run well with 50.5 kilos. Drops 2 kilos from the Metropolitan there, where it's run, arguably as good a rating as most horses in this race in the lead-up. So setup-wise, absolutely perfect. 21 days since that Metropolitan run. Very hard to not say this horse is going to run a positive race. Mentally, it doesn't make a lot of sense. You go, well, Spirit Ridge in a Caulfield Cup as a 9-year-old, 42nd start in a race. But you just can't argue with how well he's going. And he's strong on-pace horse. Obviously, tempo is going to dictate, what sort of nice run or difficult run he has up on speed. But, he's a hard, fit, tough horse that's in peak form, and it's just hard to deny him a chance here. So I give him a knockout chance for sure. Valiant King. So this is the Ballyroan Stakes. Valiant King's in the green. Vaughan is one of the Melbourne Cup favourites, is the winner. So he's following this horse. I love the look of this horse. I love the look of him as an individual. I love his action. I think he's a very interesting horse. This is over 2,414 metres. You can see he beats the rest very comfortably. He's got a big, long action. I love it. I love his long, loose action. The only worry is that he was beaten 6 lengths in a probably easier race at his subsequent start. That is a little concern. But the horse has obviously, got a good level of talent to be brought out here in the first place. And he's the one who does look a 2,400-metre horse. He's got gate 1. He's got 50 kilos. Jamie Carr may not be in the peak of her form, peak of her powers at the moment. She's obviously still coming back from an injury, and she's entitled to be continuing to improve, week to week. So gate 1, 50 kilos, it sort of rides itself, this horse. It's got enough speed to hold a spot. I would imagine it'll be 6, 7, something like that. I will bring up the map. That's probably a something we sort of, I didn't talk about at any stage, but here's a map for the race. A bit small for everyone, I'm sure. Sorry about that. I wonder if I can make it bigger. Can't on that screen. Let's get it back. But yeah, I see Goldman sort of coming across from an outside gate. Spirit Ridge, as we've seen, is showing such good form up on speed. They look the two natural leaders from wide draws. Breakup, I think, will settle in behind here. The Japanese runner. We've got Huyu Mao, who will come across and try and find a similar spot. Right, you are try and find a similar spot. Then you've got United Nations, who I believe is first emergency, may not gain a run. Nonconformist, a couple of horses that have got to try and, make a decision. I think without a fight, I'll try and slot in just behind, say, maybe a Huyu Mao. And then you've got Montefilia, Duke de Sessa, Francesco Guardi that have got decisions to make at the start, which is all dependent on how they jump, I think. So I think the map's pretty straightforward. I think they'll run along pretty nicely. And then most of the horses get the runs they want. They should get their chance tempo-wise. To me, I think, if West Wind Blows bounces off that run last start, he's the one that's going to be right there. He'll be just right behind that tempo. Probably in 5th, 6th, 7th, which will be a popular spot for a lot of good chances. And if he just gets room to move when he needs it, he's going to be extremely hard to beat. The horse from here that I just think is bomb-proof is Without a Fight. I think he draws ideally. I love that he set up, pretty fresh. That he just seems to race well that way. If he gets a bum to follow for the majority of the race and picks up a trail to the turn and only has to sprint for 400 metres, he's going to be extremely hard to hold out. I don't care who's in front of him. Value-wise, I think Huyu Mao and Valiant King are the two. They both should get perfect runs in that same sort of sweet spot, I think. The same sort of sweet spot that West Wind Blows Without a Fight will be in. So that's why I'm leaning to be negative, not negative, but I'm against your Gold Trip and Solcombe here. I think they're just going to give up too big a start and have to run down horses that are, just too well set up. The horse that I'm probably most frightened of is Montefilia, very similar form to Huyu Mao, going to be in a very similar spot. And, stable change since last year. Blake Shin, awesome rider aboard, who finds that nice position, probably a career best kind of win last time. Should get dry surface, which is what it wants. Had an ideal setup. Still only carrying 54 kilos after being in this race last year. It's the one that probably scares me the most. If it had to have a 5th pick, that'd be it. Going towards the Melbourne Cup, I'm very keen to have a look at Breakup and Akita Suhai. But I think Breakup still does scare me just because I love the Japanese horses. I love the look of that horse. And I know that even though they look a little bit plain on paper and vision-wise, how superior the animal is, the Japanese, to most around the world. So he does scare me, but I'm just going to take him on and treat him as a Melbourne Cup leading contender at this stage. And this may just be a bit short and a bit more of a warm-up for him. So, yeah, for the record, West Wind Blows and Without a Fight, clearly the top two. Huyu Mao and Valiant King, clearly the value runners. Super scared of Montefilia, but I think she's about a right price. And that's the race for me this year. Hopefully that gives you a bit of an insight to lead-ups of most of the key runners and trying to line them up. It's never easy. There are a couple that are, extremely hard to line up from overseas, but we've had a good look at most of them. And, yeah, hopefully we get a result. And I'll do a Cox Plate one next week, which is another intriguing race with a lot of great angles. So that's all we want in racing is some, interesting races to bet on. Different angles have to make an opinion, form an opinion, and put your money where your mouth is. Good luck, guys. Cheers.